Get ready to ignite your Tuesday nights with a show that's as educational as it is entertaining. Welcome to Pleasure Pulse, your weekly guide to the world of sex education. Join Roma every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. exclusively on Zarena Radio 96.1 FM. It's the perfect way to spice up your midweek routine and get answers to all your burning questions. Whether you're looking for relationship advice or curious about the art of intimacy, Roma's got you covered. Pleasure Pulse, every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Only on Zarena Radio 96.1 FM. Don't miss out. Your sex education journey starts this Tuesday with Roma as your guide.
Welcome to another episode of Pleasure Pulse. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and I'm so happy to have you with me here this Tuesday night. We are in for an exciting conversation. We have two guests, one in studio and one online. So I'm going to, as usual, give you all a minute to gather the troops to let people know that Pleasure Pulse is live. So we'll take a very short break so you can do that. Collect yourselves and your friends, family, whatever, and then we'll come right back and jump into the conversation. So stay tuned and come back to Pleasure Pulse. That was a very short, I'll give you a very short break, so I hope you had your friends on speed dial. As I mentioned, this is Pleasure Pulse and you're tuned into your host, Roma Richardson. I'm so happy that you're here with me this evening. I'm sure it took, I don't know what's going on with you, I don't know what's going on with my guests, but I'm grateful that we are all here in this space tonight. So this evening, you're tuned into ZIZ, of course, another episode of Pleasure Pulse. If you saw the flyer, you know what the topic is tonight. And this evening, we're going to be talking about sex and pornography. And I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. So I'll start with Sergeant Audian in the studio. Can you tell them whatever they need to know about you?
Good night to everyone. I am no stranger to ZIZ. My name is Charmaine Audian. I am presently a sergeant in the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. I am presently attached to the National Intervention Team. I have been I was in sex crimes for almost 7 years, dealing with domestic violence and also the children of the Federation.
Okay. Did you also deal with like cases of revenge pornography? Like when people leak people's photos or videos that they sent to them or that they recorded privately? Was that also in your...
I wasn't the lead investigator, but I would assist, especially Sergeant Powell. I would go and assist her with these cases.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to our guest online. Please introduce yourself, reintroduce yourself, Zarena. Keep
so much
going,
for having
okay.
me, Roma.
So we're doing something new for Pleasure Pulse this evening, which is having someone join us virtually. And y'all would have seen Zarena already when we talked about erogenous zones. So she's online, so I'm going to give her a few minutes to get settled, tune in, whatever it is she needs to do. So we'll continue talking in studio. So I just asked you those side note questions because I just wondered about it. But this evening we're going to be talking about sex and pornography. So I think pornography is one of those major topics related to or connected to sex, and there are lots of aspects or lots of angles you could go at when you're talking about pornography, because there are different schools of thought when it comes to it, right? Some people feel like it's a healthy addiction, and some people feel like it's, negative and it has a potentially harmful effect on relationships, but also on people forming ideas about sex growing up. So this evening I wanted to have a discussion with my two guests about pornography. And of course there are nuances. Everything isn't black and white.
Right.
So we'll start with the impact on relationships. What do you think? Oh, you can just give me a general thoughts on pornography from your field of work particularly.
Okay, as we know, and you well said, that pornography is typically videos. It can be written, it can be images, and a lot of people, when it comes to the impact in relationships, some persons think that it's positive things where it enhances the relationship, give freer conversations, better communication. It also have a negative impact where some persons expect the other person to be like on the video, or sexual pleasures, expectations. The person don't come up with the expectation that the person have after seeing these pornography.
Consuming it in moderation,
Right.
because you did raise a very good point about its potential impact on relationships and how it might start to shape people's view of what sex is, what their partners should do, expectations around, like the acrobatics that
Right.
they want to see in the bedroom.
Yes.
But not only that, because if we want to have an honest conversation about pornography, porn is sometimes very unrealistic. Not just the acrobatics, but the length of time that people
Right.
are having sex for, the things that people can do. There's often, especially if you talk about the underside, if you want to call it, or the underbelly of porn, there are a lot of conversations about how some porn stars are treated, and just the industry itself as somewhat being exploitative. And I want to ask you, in your work, have you come across positive examples of pornography, the versions of pornography that have been helpful to?
If I have to do a quick brainstorm, no.
Okay, what have you come across then? Yeah.
I have come across it breaking up marriages, breaking up relationships, the other person, basically the hatred that is built because you want me to be a character that I can't be. And that causes negative impact. It might be a simple fight as a bottle water on the table and stuff like that, but that wasn't really the fight.
Yeah.
It's the pleasure in the bed that you expect of me, and I can't give it. So I've seen it break up a lot of relationships, whether marriage or partnership.
Okay, so I want to understand more of your work and how you come across these things. So what is that space that you work in specifically?
Used to work in.
Oh, that you used to work. Okay, that you used to work in.
Yes, that was special victims unit.
Okay.
That deals with sex offenses, the children of the Federation, and domestic violence, like I said earlier.
Okay, so it's when people make police reports that these things would come
Yes.
out. Okay, so not necessarily that they're coming to report pornography as a crime, or that they're coming to you to say, oh, my marriage is
No.
failing, but it comes out in the investigations that
whether
you
it's
do.
a domestic report,
Okay.
whether it's a sexual report. Yes.
Okay, so did you find connections between domestic violence and expectations from pornography, the inability of people to perform being claimed as a reason for certain types of behavior in relationships?
If I have to brainstorm, I don't know.
Not really.
Not
Okay.
really. I can't recall.
Okay. All right. I really want to. Okay, Zarena is on, so can we go to Zarena right now to introduce herself and also to jump in on the first question that we're looking at, the impact of pornography on romantic relationships. Zarena?
Hi everyone. Can you hear me well? Okay, now I'm not hearing you. Hello.
Hi, Zarena. Can you hear us?
Okay, now I can hear you now.
Okay, great.
All right. So my name is Isaac. I'm a certified psychologist, and thank you so much for having me back, Roma. I came in on the tail end of the conversation. You guys speaking of pornography.
Yes.
Alright.
I also wanted you to like reintroduce yourself to folks who might not know you or folks who might be new.
Okay. So my name is Zarena Isaac, I'm a certified sexologist, erotic author, and I was on the show. It was about 3 weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, and we spoke about erotic zones like that.
Yeah.
So now we're in the spicy season with pornography, and I'm excited to dive in with this.
Excited. So the question was, can pornography have a healthy impact or have a healthy role in romantic relationships? Or is it generally a negative thing?
It could go ways, because there are couples who enjoy, that's their kink. So they could sit together and watch it, and it helps boost the relationship. And then there's some who see it as, as disrespect, because they feel like they're not satisfying, or what's wrong with me? Then I'm not satisfying you, that you have to resort to watching porn. And then there's some people that, okay, this is the kinky side, so we're gonna try this later tonight. Excited, they want to, whatever they see in the porn videos, they want to try and mimic it with their partner, and persons are okay with it. So I would say yes, it's leveled. It has negative and it has positive.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense, right? And I think just it reflects the nuanced nature
Yes.
of, I think, everything in sex and in relationships, right? Everything is kind of relationship, individual specific, and everything depends on how it is used. I want us to take a short break so that everyone can get a little settled. I think we want to figure out one technical thing inside, so we're going to take a very short break and then we'll come back. So stay tuned to Pleasure Pulse on ZIZ with your host Roma, Richardson, and guest Charmaine Audian and Zarena Isaac online. So we'll take a short break and come right back. You're tuned in to Pleasure Pulse on ZIZ, and we have just started our conversation on pornography, and I think both of my guests have agreed when it comes to the first question about the positive or negative outcomes in romantic relationships, that it's very much dependent on the people, how they use it, what they're trying to get from pornography, and how they're trying to incorporate it into their lives. So we'll move on to the educational aspect. So, and this is, I think, a big, interesting question, considering that everyone is not even sold on comprehensive sexual education here. But the question is, assuming that we're sold on that, at least in this space, is there a role for pornography in sexual education? And if so, what do you think that role should be? I'll start with Zarena online, and then we'll come back to you in studio. Zarena, what do you think?
Yes, I would say that pornography teaching kids them how to go about having. So that's that. When I do say pornography, I use with the authentic African and stuff. But you're teaching straight into how about having sex, how on the condom, visually they need kind of stuff. I could say it works when it comes to showing the kids.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that perspective. What do you think, Sergeant Audian?
For me, it can be a limited role. Education by providing a visual aspect, as Zarena said, but it is also critical that they supplement with the comprehensive of consent information. For me, the teacher has to control what she presents to the children rather than leading them in a certain direction. It can be limited, but with proper direction.
Okay, so some visuals,
yes,
do you think are good?
Because they also have to know the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
It must be a balance.
Yeah. Okay. I wonder how that would actually work
in the real world.
In the real world, though, like, cause I could understand it going down much easier when it comes to adults, right? But how would it work for younger people? Like, I imagine we're talking about no younger than fifth form, first of all, but I also imagine that it will have to be very carefully selected content to ensure that it's not, I guess, too pornographic, too vulgar and not. So you want a good example, right? And I think there are some good examples in pornographic content about consent, about condom use and protection, about communication, about mutual pleasure and things like that. So I'd be very interested in seeing it play out. I remember some episodes, even when Zarena was on, we talked about erogenous zones, and we didn't necessarily have visual aids, but I know they could have helped a lot. And then in a later episode, I had on someone who was showing sex toys, and I think that maybe some people consider it pornographic, but it was helpful in seeing all that's available. When you have to do condom demonstrations, no one's using bananas anymore. Like, you're using things that look like actual human anatomy, right? So I think that's an interesting conversation. So it has a role in teaching about consent, in showing how to use protection, in showing good communication. Zarena, sorry, did you want to jump in? There's a lag, so...
Yeah, I realized it too.
Yeah.
And period of time. But I was just Sergeant was saying.
Okay. I have to make sure that you're finished before I jump in. All right. So moving along. And I think, when we started talking about the potential negative outcomes of pornography or negative, I don't want to say consequences, but we could talk about things that happen, in the misuse or overconsumption of pornography, and mental health. So what is your current understanding of pornography addiction? And then we can go into the resources available for those who might feel like they have it. You want me to start online? I can start online.
That's okay. I can think. My current understanding is acknowledging the potential of pornography and the addiction, which can manifest as compulsive behavior and negative consequences in various situations. A person needs to know when they need help.
Mm-hmm.
What are the triggers? You must know yourself to know, I'm at work, but yet here am I on the phone watching porn. I'm in a meeting, but here am I. I'm in school, but here am I.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real life thing.
Yeah.
Because we're in a technological world. So it ain't like we go reach home and wait until we go in the bathroom at home. You can actually go in school, the bathroom, in the phone, or you can have the phone in the classroom and you're watching it. So it's real.
Or you're on public transportation. Because sometimes, like, you know, you look over people's shoulders in public spaces and you see that they're...
Yes, I've seen.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that you would consider also maybe
Yes.
a marker of addiction.
Yeah.
Okay. Zarena, what do you think?
I know there's going to be a nagging, but basically when it drops your everyday routine where you have a job interview and you decide day and as a customer, then you know you have a problem. You have to go and pick it and watch porn. At the work, you decide to enjoy porn. So anything that disrupts you, that's when you know I need mental health.
Okay. So for people who, you know, might be listening and might be wondering if they perhaps fall into that category, or maybe they know someone who seems as if they might be struggling with an addiction or getting there, perhaps. What resources? I know the counseling center exists, but from your space, is there anything that are there any resources that people can tap into for help there? Not really.
No, the counseling center would have been my answer, definitely.
Okay.
And persons have to have strategies to cope with their triggers and their craving also. There's a lot of online support. If they're not getting it here, they can probably get it online. There's a lot of online support as well.
Yeah. Zarena, anything in your space, or is that a service that you offer?
Not for me. Yeah. There's psychotherapy. There's relationship counseling. It's not given back home. Like Sergeant said, you could always find in a counselor someone who. Usually when some there's an underlying, whether there's stress or something, porn as a way to cope. So medication could come into you know fixing stress experiencing, and once maybe you might not have such be watching porn or doing anything to be in the pause. It's why counseling is like you know you want to find out what you're going to whatever you're going. Because porn isn't a bad thing. It's just in moderation. Everything in moderation. You have enough. When it's to distract.
Yeah. Okay. So y'all are saying the same things, right? So, and similar to other types of addiction,
Right.
the symptoms, the signs seem very similar. So anything that disrupts your daily life, if you have things that you are accustomed to do and you realize that you're not doing them anymore, or even if you're scaling back a lot of the time you used to spend doing those things to now watch porn, you might want to consider whether or not there is an addiction there or brewing there. And like both Sergeant Audian and Zarena said, you know, it's important to know your triggers, or to find out your triggers and
Right.
find out what is pushing you to do that, because like addictions are a response to some kind of underlying struggle, something that you're grappling with or dealing with that you really, you know, could get support for. So the counseling center is there. I feel like there's so many things that come up on this show where the counseling center is the answer, and I know that they are stretched already. So I know also that there are private counselors
Right.
available online. I had one on with me, Andrea James, a few weeks ago. So if you find that, you know, you can't get the help that you need at the counseling center, consider going private and seeing if there's someone there who can help you with that. Because I think irrespective of like where you get it, it's important for you to find that support. And I do like the online options that you mentioned, because I feel like porn years ago used to just be in books, magazines. It was videotaped. It was things that you really couldn't access discreetly, you know, like without everybody knowing that that's what you were doing. So because of like the proliferation online might be a good space for you to get help there and find community dealing with the same things. So let's take, you know, a short break here. I want that to kind of sink in, and for folks who are listening to think about, you know, what's going on with them. What is their relationship with porn? Do you consume porn? Do you consume porn more than you used to? Are you feeling like you are increasing your consumption of porn? Is there something driving that? You know, and you can have the relationship with your partner, because sometimes we notice that, you know, we used to watch porn together with our partners, but no, it's something that you do on your own. Is there something that is driving that, or is our relationship changing? Whatever it is. So I just want to take a short break so that you have some time to take that all in, to think about it, and then we'll come back to Pleasure Pulse on ZIZ Radio and online. So we'll take a short break and come right back.
Tune in for Policing with You, a half-hour radio program every Thursday morning at 9:15 on ZIZ Radio. Join host as he focuses on crime, factors contributing to criminal activity, crime prevention, and how the community can assist the police in reducing crime. It's Policing with You every Thursday morning at 9:15 on ZIZ Radio. Join us.
From the heart of ZIZ Radio comes a political talk show like no other. The Edge, with host Devin Cornelius giving you his take on the biggest stories happening in governance today. Got something to say? Let's hear it. Give us a call at 869-465-2555, Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. One solid hour of in-depth analysis of the machinery that makes our country tick. The Edge, cutting into the matters at hand.
Back to Pleasure Pulse on ZIZ Radio, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, you're tuned into your host Roma Richardson and guest Sergeant Charmaine Audian and sexologist Zarena Isaac, who is joining us online. So we've been talking about pornography. We've covered its impact or its potential impact on relationships, whether it has a positive or whether it can have a healthy role in romantic relationships, or whether it only leads to negative outcomes. And we very, I think, clearly said that it's definitely nuanced and it depends on the people in the relationship, what's going on with them, what they're including pornography for, how they're including it, and how they're using it, sharing it or not. We also touched on the educational side of pornography, whether or not there was a role for pornography in sex education, and we said that there could be, and visual aids can help a lot. We discussed obviously using it in age appropriate settings, and I hope that folks online listening know that there is a way to have conversations around sex, around sexuality, around bodies with children, you know, from not zero obviously, but you know, once they start to understand, you can teach them their body parts, other people's body parts, not by showing them other people naked, but you know, other people's body parts, and you have age appropriate conversations as they get older. So we were thinking that, you know, those visual aids might help with older teens, adults especially, in teaching about sex, about consent, communication, protection, and so on. And we just talked about mental health and addiction and folks' current understanding of pornography addiction and the resources available for those seeking help. And we said that pornography addiction happens when it is something that affects your daily life or interferes with your daily life. So things that you used to, your routines that you used to have are now disrupted by pornography consumption. So, you know, you used to pick up your children, let's say, I think Zarena gave this example about picking up children from school. So you used to pick them up at 3:30, but now you're getting there at 4 o'clock because you had to spend time, you know, every day watching pornography. So there is, while pornography can be very positive and useful and a good addition to people's sexual lives, it's in moderation, and it is important to recognize if it's turning from, you know, a healthy consumption into addiction. So, and this might be a good question for you as a police. I want to get into like young people's access to pornography, because I think even this show sometimes, you know, like folks have come to me and said that they've heard people say that, you know, this show is on and young children are listening and things like that. And this show is nowhere near pornographic, right? This show is called Pleasure Pulse, and it's meant to be a show focused on sexual health and sexual pleasure without always the visual aids, right? So not this show, since this show is not pornography, but what are some measures you think can be taken or put in place to prevent underage access to pornography?
I kind of like this question, but I'm also passionate about it because we see a lot of children have access to phone, laptops, computers, but yet they're not supervised. Mm-hmm. They're not even being policed by their parents. And I would advise adults to be involved, get filters, get the network itself to probably put some kind of blockage and get a babysitter. I remember when my daughters especially, you know, these phones started to be introduced and stuff like that, I had a babysitter on top of my computer, because sometimes we didn't know anything about tablet and laptop and all of those stuff. So get babysitter, get somebody who knows about technology, because the children knows.
Yeah.
They know. They're more advanced than us. Mm-hmm. So I would advise that filter, get a babysitter, get your network provider involved, because remember, the children shouldn't be open to just log on and things are popping up. Even for me, you go on the computer, things are popping up.
Yeah.
A lot of schools are using emails now. Persons send all kind of things. The other day I wonder, like, why would anybody send these things to my email? A lot of nonsense came to checking my junk email for email, and I saw a lot of things popping up. So imagine if I'm an adult, imagine a child who uses email, especially for school purposes. A lot of schools are using it. So I am hoping that the parents are listening, because just the other day I had to advise one of my godchildren parent that, you know, I actually asked her, I said, do you check your child's phone? And she said, no, like, who has a teenager and don't police? You know, so it is important that we get involved, giving the children the phone, but also have that open conversation with them about pornography.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Zarena, over to you. What do you think?
Apart from the filtering of the website that do probably communicating to them. This what it is. Like I just tried back these days. More about technology than so the more you sit talk to them and let them know it might be better for you, because so the websites are there for they still go to school, have access to certain things. They get So it kind of defeats the purpose of you filter. They have access to the outside where friends school that. But if you home, they go, the good bad, there's when they go out there, whatever friends just say or any adults, they already got the insight from mom, daddy, whatever. Might not move them because they already know. So just filtering the website might be the only thing you need to do. Filter, but talking to them and letting them why you what's going on with your might be a better way to communicate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and that of course ties into the broader conversation about young people's access to not just sex, but sex education. So I think that a lot of times the hesitance or the fear that we have about sex education, just like our own conversations about giving out condoms in school or providing condoms to young folks, is that anything that equips them with something will encourage them to do it. But all the research shows that, where children have received comprehensive sex education, they have later, initiation, so like later first sex, and more of them use protection. So when we're talking with, about human beings, we're dealing with people who, once they are sexual, they are going to have sex at some point. And so the best thing that you can do for them is provide them the information, the resources that they need to make healthy sexual decisions, right? So I love what Zarena said about, yes, you can, police and monitor at home, but without the conversation about it, they'll just access it somewhere else.
Right.
And whether that is via the emails at school. 'Cause I remember when I was young, and all kind of emails used to go around. Like that was the mode of transmitting, whether it was local videos or pictures or whatever, or from somewhere else. Like it was email. So now that you have WhatsApp and free and more accessible versions of communication, you can imagine that just has been like magnified, exacerbated, the ease by which or the ease by which we can send things around. So it's really important to have those conversations with your children. Like media literacy is important as well. So I hope that schools are having those conversations too. Otherwise, tell me from
I think there was like in the high school guidance counselor, to get stuff. Right.
Sorry, Zarena, I think I lost what you said. Can you say that again?
I was saying the guidance counselors is just where you're able to guidance counsel them, or is that done away with?
Talking to the guidance counselors about sex?
Yeah, you still have that.
Yeah, I think schools still have guidance counselors. I'm not sure who does. Like, I remember there was this health and family life education curriculum that included some version of sex education, but I'm not sure like the status of that right now. I think it's still happening, but I'm not sure like what it includes. But I know that like guidance counselors are, I don't want to say in every school or almost every school. We don't know, but we can confirm that.
Guidance
so
counselor is at the schools now. There's a guidance counselor
at every school.
I remember before this previous government, they were shared, but I realized this, especially the primary schools, have their own guidance counselor, and of course the high schools have a number of guidance counselors as well.
Okay, so children can still go to their guidance counselors to have these conversations, and I hope that the guidance counselors respond like professionally with accurate information about it. So yeah, that's still
age-appropriate information.
age-appropriate, accurate, unbiased information. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Zarena. Yeah. Okay. All right. So moving along, I think we did cover like how parents should approach the topic with children, but maybe we should spend a few more minutes on that, just for parents listening who maybe have not responded in the healthiest ways, you know, when conversations about pornography have come up. So what would you advise parents who, like, maybe they found pornography on their child's phone, or their child came and asked them about it, or something happened?
Not. I find that a lot of teenagers, even any, and ask these that you don't always want to be quick to this. Yeah, because ask a question of their phone or most of the parents you start if they're having sex, they're going having sex. I don't. It's all the questions. This is the pros and the cons. Back to them in the back that you have to be mentally ready. At the age, you're too young. Children, when they come and ask these, the more you educate them, good touch, bad touch. I always, the kid knows from small what touch. There'll be a mommy and daddy. Okay, person to me. But on these type of topics, they may feel. I mean, there's some kids, but then if they have make it easier for them to have this, where they could actually talk to you, friends. Because sometimes you don't know how to go about sex. You go and speak to your parents about it. Stuff like that. So you went to your friend.
Yeah.
Any bed. So they just say, and then that's where you end up with pregnancy. It's in different stuff because no education part behind safely because realistic. You can't kid or teenager not to have because a teenager is gonna have the best thing for you to go about doing how to go having sex. Even if like if I get the condom, I tell them what be like this in for them be like condoms. They're gonna sex. Better for you educate them on about it. Leave them hanging. Realistic. Without to have they want to have. You may feel okay. I'm straight. School to home. At school. What doing at school? You're so if you know contact with your kids. It's not about it's always have a conversation. How much your kid would comfort and things about stuff.
Yeah, I feel that. Do you have anything to add, Sergeant Audian?
For me, it all boiled down about education, communication, are the key to helping children navigate from a digital landscape responsibility. Without education, without clear communication, and a parent must know it's all about the age-appropriate discussion. Because if you catch let's say 7-year-old with porn, it can be the same discussion as you catch a 15-year-old. And if you don't know what to say, seek help. Beating and stuff like that, have a conversation. It's important. The education part is important.
Yeah. And I think, like, I follow a lot of parenting pages online. I don't know why. But I do. So the thing is, a lot of where like some of these issues come from is the same place that you can find some of the solutions and some of the support. So you can find resources online about how to talk to children about almost everything, right? And a lot of them are written from like, you know, North American perspective. So the language might not be exactly what you will use, but you get the gist of it, right? You get the message behind it, and you adapt it to language that suits you and your child. Or, you know, sometimes it's somebody else's child that someone asks you to have a conversation with because they feel like you're more comfortable, or whatever it is. Or you ask somebody else who, you know, has successfully or effectively had that conversation with their children, if they could talk to your child, especially if your child trusts them and respects them already. So I think the key here is, you know, knowing what you are able to do and what you are able to give, ensuring that it's not a conversation, ensuring that it's a conversation and not violence, right? Because a lot of times we feel like we don't have to talk to our children about things, but talking to them and being honest and open and saying like, these are realities, like Zarena said, you know, that's where the pros and cons can come in, can be a great way to go in bringing children in to conversations about pornography, and can help them better maneuver. Sorry, Zarena, you were saying something?
I was saying it goes with culture.
Yeah,
2 years.
absolutely.
Like you mentioned under school, that thing in the US too. But persons who maybe from the see it as initiating or help sex by providing them with the content. It all boils down to because I had on which your parent had speak with her daughter Canada. It was basically I guess it would I guess to hush fun not to feel confident stranger in our but it's approach she wanted to be mindful that it also learn find way. So you come like you're ready to brings the sex talk to you. So it was just about time, patience.
Yeah, absolutely. So conversations, and a lot of things we realize when, like on Pleasure Pulse, a lot of things come back to communication, conversation, just talking it out. Even though it's sex, you know, and doing act or verb or whatever, a huge part of that is communication.
Right.
So, final question. How can individual people make informed decisions about consuming pornography in a way that aligns with their values and their well-being? And that's like a moralistic question back to the, is pornography good or bad? But yeah, how can individuals like make those informed decisions?
I guess they'll have to reflect on their values and boundaries and their well-being. It is essential and critical for you to evaluate yourself, whether in relationship or even just a self-evaluation about your boundaries, practicing self-awareness, knowing it is not healthy for you, unhealthy for you, and being able to identify that, hey, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's it.
Okay. What do you think, Zarena?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. How can individuals make informed decisions about consuming pornography in a way that aligns with their values and well-being?
Again, whole conversation, I see communication. What their concerns with their partner again, seeing if that's what they're open when like and she like or case it while go the relationship. That's where you have to communicate.
Open dialogue.
Open dialogue, open communication.
To know what good, because some people, why is my partner watching? But then there's some who enjoy it because that's their kick, and they get off on this kind of.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for some people, pornography is like foreplay, right? It's not anything that takes away your love and desire for your partner. It's something that, both of you or one of you can consume before to get you in the mood, right? So I think, as everyone mentioned, it depends on the individuals finding out what you're on, confirming, reaffirming your own values. Sorry, I'm just making sure Zarena isn't talking because I'm watching. Zarena, you're not talking, right?
No, that's why I mute the mic.
Okay, got you. Okay. So knowing what your values are, that's a first important step, like that self-awareness. So is porn something that I'm really comfortable with? Am I comfortable with some types of porn and not other types of porn? Because there's what you call like feminist porn, and I guess there's everything else. And feminist porn is supposed to be more ethically made, more respectful of particularly the women in the pornography space, since a lot of other porn is geared towards like the male gaze and men particularly, and doesn't necessarily often feature women's pleasure. So there might be types of porn that you're okay with and types that you're not okay with, right? So understanding where you are, understanding where your partner is, making sure that there's that compatibility there, because I feel like and this is just me going off, I think like sometimes, and this like compatibility is across the board with so many things in relationship, right? And a lot of times, instead of being honest and saying, okay, you like what you like and I like what I like, and I'm not changing, you're not changing, so we either gonna go separate ways or we're gonna honor and respect that difference. But a lot of times we're trying to force people into something that we're into, or they're trying to force us the other way, and that's that like clashes right? So it's important for like everyone involved to know like where they stand, what they're willing to like bend on, what is a hard no or a strict yes for them. And then, the conversations continue, of course, when we're talking about sex. So I want to ask my guests if they have any final words as we wrap up tonight's conversation on sex and pornography. Sergeant Audian.
I just want to repeat myself about the underage access. That is my passion there, because we're getting a lot of complaints when it comes to children being unsupervised on the laptop or whatever technology access they have. And even for the females, where they're sending pictures and stuff like that, encourage parents to have that open conversation with your child, age-appropriate conversation, of course, and make sure that they get the necessary help so that the children won't be exposed, or we have easy access to these kind of things.
Yeah, and I think that's, really important, because as we started out saying, it really can shape how children view sex, especially boys. So we're having problems with, men in particular now, and their view of especially women as just sexual objects, as just orifices for penetration. I'm going to I read in an article at a time, I can't remember, but it was essentially just, it was receptacles for semen. That's what, some men see women as, and porn can sometimes play a huge role in creating that vision of women as just sex tools, right? But Zarena, do you have any final words?
My final words would be give the parent take maybe you want time to like take before stepping into education. When it comes to pornography, when it that anything of nature, and like this is monitor what your kids watch, and that only work one time because they're free to by themselves. Once they become educated, sexual health, it will become easier for them to their children about. So it's because I think maybe Jen wasn't educated on sex, and then sex, so it becomes repeated thing. Come, Jen. So start from the parent, then the kids, and then they could also start education. So community education. My talk tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Communication. So, and that goes for, adults to their children and two adults communicating with each other. Communication is important when we are looking at pornography and what impact it will have on people and their relationships. So, as usual, this was another episode of Pleasure Pulse on ZIZ. You were tuned into your host, Roma Richardson, and guests, Sergeant Charmaine Audian and sexologist online, Zarena Isaac. And I'm so happy that both of them were able to join me this evening as we talked about sex and pornography. And Sergeant Audian, I might call you back for us to talk about what you're currently, working on and getting complaints on. You said about children's, unsupervised access to pornographic materials and so on. But I'm really grateful we were able to have this conversation, and I hope that we are able to keep talking about these things. I hope it inspires a conversation from my listeners, whether it is in your household or you take it to the appropriate folks at work. You take it to your friends, you take it to your church groups, right? Because these are issues that are affecting children across the Federation in different spaces. So I hope that you use this conversation as a jumping off point for future conversations with the folks around you, the folks in your communities. Thank you for tuning in to Pleasure Pulse. I'll see you all next Tuesday. Remember that Pleasure Pulse is a safe, inclusive space for everyone where no topic or no question is too big or too small. I'll see you all next week. Have a pleasurable evening. Bye.
Get ready to ignite your Tuesday nights with a show that's as educational as it is entertaining. Welcome to Pleasure Pulse, your weekly guide to the world